YouTube. All I got to do is mash that one button.
Kaboom.
And suddenly, we're live on YouTube.
Suddenly, we're live on YouTube.
I can go ahead and tweet it out,
Speaking
too.
of which, I need to
I just got a
mute.
notification.
Yeah, I did too.
Twitter.
Notificaciones.
Here goes nothing.
We might make fools of ourselves if Frank can't ever get connected. Play me a song, Curtis Lowe.
There we go. That's tweeted.
Play me a song, Curtis Turner. What?
I got your drinking money. Hey, what's up, y'all? Laura,
Woo-woo!
Matt DiBenedetto fan, what's happening? It's been a while. How's Christmas? Mick, what's up, dude? Everybody get some loot? Me and Sherwin are both wearing loot.
Hell yeah.
From Christmas. It's awesome.
Lanner loot.
Yeah, both of them Atlanta as well. You know, I'm usually not into like the logoing thing, but I really like this Adidas logo on here. You know what I mean?
It looks good.
Yeah. I mean, they make it look good.
I mean,
it looks,
Georgia Tech switching to Adidas.
Yeah.
They're setting up that whole Adidas R&D
There's
center.
Stephanie McDonald. That's my sister, y'all. She bought me this thing. This pullover / zip up.
Noise.
This thing rules.
Yeah, that's
Afraid
cool.
you
It's
missed a
full zip,
notification.
too. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Sounds kinda
full
fun.
up and down. This thing's awesome. It's really warm, too. I need to, like, back off on the heater a little bit.
Could turn the air on or something.
Yeah. We're waiting on our guest.
Shoot, the date and stuff didn't change. Can you fix that?
Oh, yeah, I can fix that. Watch this. Oh, good call. That's good quality assurance testing right there. December 28th, hit OK, blam, and suddenly, you might even see me typing it as it's doing it. We'll see. There it goes.
Boom.
28th.
Yep. It definitely, as you typed
Yeah,
it.
as I type it shows up.
Sweet.
Beast, what's up, Beast?
All right, I guess I
good
better
times.
dive back in these DMs and see
Right.
what Frank's doing.
New boots.
Oh,
Nice.
no.
Man, very jealous of new
Had to
boots.
register the new number. So he gave us a phone number.
Does
Does Skype do that? I mean, I know it does because I've done it on personal.
Well,
stuff.
do we have to call him, like, if I have to call a phone number, I'll use a different app.
Yeah, that's.
But if he's, I don't know. We're waiting on our guest to download Skype and figure it all out. He got a new phone. Frank Villat will be with us shortly, so we're just kind of, I don't know, goofing off till then.
Okay,
Sherwin,
it's Skype. You can dial his phone number on Skype.
it's weird. It might tell me I have to pay to do that. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. I am going to mute us because he probably doesn't want his phone number out for everybody, so we'll be right back. Sorry, y'all. We're getting it set up. We're figuring it out. Little troubleshooting while we're working. What up? Happy New Year, Brandon. Hey, good to see you, Brandon. JoJo checking in. Missed a couple of live shows. Thank you for coming back. Last show was, oh man, that was fun as hell. Yeah. It was. Well, it didn't get like it wasn't off the rails like what's her butt. That was
No.
piss drunk. It was just fun. Good stories, never stuff.
Stories from Jerry.
Matt DiBenedetto fan. The answer to your question is yes, and more to come. So, yeah, thank you for that. It's going to be cool. It's like coffee clutch. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. You drive on the parkway and park on the driveway. Discuss.
You can't call him on Skype because I can't. Like I could just straight up dial.
Sure, we're still muted. I mean, but can we get video that way?
Yeah. How do I connect it to you? Let me call him really quick and see if we can work through this. I'll just call him via Skype.
Okay.
And then we'll figure out.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. See
if there's something we can walk him through, because he said he's computer illiterate.
Or here, he can tell him to like friend me on.
Oh wait,
Skype.
here we go. I got a link.
Oh, you got a link?
Yeah, I think we're in good shape now. Let me send it to you via.
Send me a link.
That G chat up in this.
Ooh, hey girl,
slide into that G chat.
Yeah, got that G chat.
Got that G chat.
What's your screen name?
So funny enough, I'm DMing with Frank now. Sliding DMing.
Open pick an app.
So the guy that Rusty told the story about that we've known for like 15 years and he didn't know that like they worked in the same office for like the last 10 or whatever. when we brought him to the racetrack and he spent the race with us, he definitely brought 7 cases of Budweiser. And he was asking all the girls at the racetrack for their G chat. It was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, he'd lean out a window. Hey,
look at that G chat.
What's your screen name? And I mean, they would die laughing, and it was totally worth it. Oh boy,
it's the only millennial catcalling I've ever heard.
Oh man, what a perfect way! Oh, there's some noises and stuff
that was
happening.
A better noise than.
Yeah, well, that was me trying to. All right, let's do this again. Let's click that thing. Open.
So what did that
app.
link supposed to do?
I don't know.
Right, I'm with you.
I
think
know
we're
the
similarly
answer.
retarded on this.
Oh, here we go. Wait a second.
Oh,
Wait a second. Frank Villat. Here we go. Accept. Call. See what happens. Make things happen. It's ringing.
That's the right amount of beeps.
Hey, it looks like it's trying. There it is. What's up, Frank?
Better late than never, right?
That's right. He's looking good. Look at that shirt. Legend of Zelda. I'm digging it. I'm going to put the guest video over. Make sure that looks good. Yeah, that looks pretty good right there. Actually, that's perfect. So, right on. How's it going, Frank?
Pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, good. We're live on YouTube, but we're not live on the show yet. This isn't what's going to be on the
you on still have room to make a mistake with your language.
yeah, a little bit.
Who does that? No, we don't do things like that.
Nah, nothing like that on not on this podcast.
Get this booze open so there's no
Well,
obstacles for later.
That could be a catalyst to mistakes. Oh man,
as has been proven in the past.
Is that a so Frank? Is that a Christmas gift shirt, or is that one that you've just kind of had in the repertoire?
No, I wear this from time to time.
Okay, gotcha.
It's funny too. It completely wasn't intentional. I just didn't even. I've had it on all day, so I didn't even think about it.
Nice.
Let's see. Matt is saying, "Oh God, turn the volume down." Ah, that might have been us trying to call or something. I think it should be.
The beeps might have been louder.
Yeah. The beeps were probably the a mess. Oh well. That's what you get for tuning in early. Oops.
Right. We'll show you.
Yeah. Oh man, look at this. Sherman's just pulling out candy, as we call it. Secret Apollo IPA. Okay, I'm in. That's kind of a cool can. I've never seen a tall boy from Jekyll, by the way.
Me neither.
That's pretty neato.
As it turns out.
Yeah,
that's probably why they did the iron-on label.
yeah.
Shrink wrap label.
Yeah, you peel this back and there's Coors Light underneath.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. All right. Well, let's see. We ready to get started? Frank, you about ready?
I'm good. I'm
cool.
ready.
We'll do our normal stuff. Hey, I can't remember.
He said everybody's volume was ramped up to 1,000%.
Oops.
Whoops.
Everybody just slide it down.
Had just gain up to 9 when it should have been at 3.
Yeah. Oops.
We just want to make sure we're heard.
That's right. So let's see the usual rundown stuff. Let's see. You've been on before and you've listened. We'll just kind of go through blah, blah, nothing crazy.
I suggested that that our main topic one. I didn't think we had more than one. Would be Frank suggested to me that the topic ought to be about the schedule, which is cool.
Right on.
And then Frank, I don't know if you saw what Weaver was up to today, but that seems like a worthy topic. The whole Larson wanting to use his Cup career to catapult a future full schedule World
That's
of
a new
Outlaws.
one. I can't say I've ever heard that before, but yeah, that should be interesting to talk about. A little bit.
So when I dove into it, it wasn't quite as provocative as people wanted it to be, but that's fine. We can still talk about it. But it's basically saying when I reach the Matt Kenseth point of my career, I want to be able to run a full circuit.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. We'll talk about driver number. We'll talk about Schedulenomics. We'll talk about Larson. Got some questions from the posse, and then we'll wind it down. And I figure that's going to take us about 20 minutes, and every time I say that, it's going to take over an hour. So heck with it. We'll have good times and good conversations. Frank, I don't know if you remember from last time, but the when we start the show, the audio will cut out on you. And you're not going to hear us for like a minute, so bear with us, and we'll be back with you. And then after the end of the show, after we all say goodbye and all that, we'll still have you on and whatnot. You just once again won't be able to hear us, but we'll bring you back after that.
Well, and you still have time to go get a drink if you hadn't got one yet.
There is that.
I'm good.
All right, he's packing.
It's tame. It's tame today.
That's okay. That's okay.
I got an early morning, but I do have my beverage.
Do we have a time limit here? Do I need to be stopping like by 10, or are we good? All right, cool. All right, Sherwin, you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right, Frank, you ready?
Yep.
PTM Posse, hope y'all are ready, because we are recording now.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is a pregame engineer tailgate mayor racing podcast, episode number 126. It's Thursday, December 28th, 2017. I'm tailgate mayor Rusty Wallace in the PTM podcast studio with pregame engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, it's like right after Christmas and stuff. I've been working all week, though, which has been kind of crappy.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
at least we get to have some fun now.
Yeah, we'll have some fun. And if y'all, I hadn't been like, partaking in the booger sugar or nothing. If I just keep touching my nose here, I've been having a little bit of cold, so there's a little bit of that going on. I'm not like scratching my
whatever. Rusty's been over there doing Stevie Wonders all day.
Yeah, I just got lines, y'all. Hey, before we get started, y'all know how it is. The PTM podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get your free koozie, and the best part is every cent in 2017. There's only 3 days left in 2017. We're giving it all away. We're sponsoring drivers. We're donating that out. Join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show, it's brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Laura Henshaw, Harry Bolzania, Mick Rose, Chad Sterling, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Tony Salk, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marilyn Best, Patrick Cleary, and Jeff Brown. Let's do this. Woo! How about that, Sherwin? Did we get it?
I think so. You're the one with the list.
Right.
That sounded like a bunch of cool people.
The last episode in 2017. How crazy is that?
You know what's even crazier is that it's all but an accident that the same person we had for the last episode in 2016 is who we have today.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Purely
I
an
did not
accident.
realize that.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. That's awesome. Well, tonight's returning guest, he's a PTM alum from 1 year ago. He provides NASCAR coverage, frontstretch.com. He's very active on Twitter. He sends us questions all the time. He's awesome. You can find him at Frank Villat. It is Frank Villat. What's up, Frank?
How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's awesome, man. Other than me having to choke on my words every once in a while, whatever this thing is.
Funk Rusty better not give me.
Oh, well, yeah, right. Well, it's not preventing me from imbibing in a little bit of the devil's juice here. So, Sherwin, what are we drinking on today?
Well, first off, as usual, we stole your Jim Beam. I stole your Jim Beam. You just are drinking your Jim Beam. The cool thing, I think the coolest thing I got today is the is a new IPA from Jekyll Brewing here in Actually, it's right down the road from me where I live in Alpharetta. It's called Secret Apollo. Got some really cool artwork on the can here, as folks can see. Pretty tasty. And you know what? I was feeling the rye
Feeling the rye.
was in the
Sometimes you feel the
mood.
rye. I like it.
And a day late, a week short, whatever you want to call it, we got some Texas rye whiskey here, the Yellow Rose.
Nice.
We're going to get into later when we stop remembering what we're even talking about.
Oh, Frank, what you drinking on today?
I'm going tame tonight. I got to be up at 5 a.m., but I have the original.
Hey, you brought Atlanta. I'm digging it. Out of way,
Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
yeah.
You know, 5 a.m., that's on the cusp of early and late, right? If you'd have said 4 a.m., I'd say, no, that's just late. That's staying up late.
Right,
5 a.m.,
right.
yeah, I guess that's early.
I told somebody today
Yeah.
I don't see a whole lot of 5 a.m.s.
No, 'cause I'm either
Not
passed
Not on
out.
the back end or the front end.
Yeah, not at this age. Oh, man. So, I mean, this is kind of our Christmas episode here. So, Sherwin, how'd you make out
Basically-
on the Christmas deal? I'm seeing some cool stuff.
Yeah, well, got this sweet Falcons Nike dry fit pullover. Mama Sherwin, she does quite
Mama knows
well.
best.
She also got me this Columbia vest. Let me see if I can show the crowd here. Got a kind of a lightweight, kind of a fleecy vest kind of a deal.
You know, I don't own any vests, and you own like 2 or 3 or maybe more. I don't know.
Well,
and
2
I'm
that I
always
can
jealous
fit
when I
in.
see. I'm always jealous when I see them, and I need to go get me a vest. So I'm doing
Vests
that.
are so good for layering
Nice.
because you can wear something
Yeah.
light, but like as long as
But
you
keep
got
the core.
as long as
Yeah.
you got the fat rolls warmed up, you're good.
Yeah. So along the same theming, I mean, here I am in my Atlanta United pullover / zip up thing here, man.
I
It's
like
got
it.
it's like that new space age material and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
This thing's a bomb right here. My sister got it for me. I think she's on the YouTube right now. So thank you, Steph, for that. And then along the same lines, so the parents, they both knocked it out of the park this year. So
Oh really?
my parents got me this. It's similar to one they did a while back, but it's this rare beer club thing.
Oh,
so
neat.
you get like a couple bottles of rare one run beers every month, and then Serena's parents, so the in-laws, got me a gift certificate to like that Omaha Steaks thing. So I got beer and steaks for Christmas, dude. Like,
I don't know how you can go wrong there.
yeah.
I think you when's dinner?
yeah, right. Oh well, right after Frank goes out. Frank, how about yourself? How was the Christmas?
Not too bad. It was quiet around here. My wife and daughters have been out of town for about a week. They actually come home tomorrow, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, man.
But we do a little different thing here. My wife and her family are Jewish, so they do Hanukkah,
Okay. Got
and
it.
I grew up, celebrating Christmas. So we do Chrismaka.
Chrismica, Mazel Tov.
Yeah, and we do a little bit of gifting and celebrating for Hanukkah, and then we do it again at Christmas. And the older my girls get, the more they'll probably love that.
right,
No
right.
kidding.
My,
Double dip.
my wife hit a home run herself this year. I got an Xbox One and NASCAR Heat 2.
Oh
So-
no! Well,
Boom.
you're
I don't know
occupied.
if she realized what she's done. But,
right. Yeah,
Evidently, she
I
wants you to
think I made out
disappear
pretty
for
good.
hours at a time.
yeah, no kidding.
yeah.
So good times. I hope the PTM posse had a great Christmas and everything. What a fun time. This is our last episode of 2017. Sherwin, we have somewhat of an announcement. Actually, we didn't even talk about this before tonight. We talked about it a few weeks ago, but we hadn't talked about it tonight. This is our last episode of 2017. We said for Patreon, we're going to donate everything in 2017. It's been in there the whole time. Every cent in 2017, we're donating to sponsoring drivers.
Right.
Well-
You have to change your intro.
Sherwin,
next
why don't
week.
we just roll that number over? What do you think?
However we should do it is whatever makes the most sense is the way we ought to do it.
Well, it makes dollars and cents, y'all. For 2018, I'm gonna just change that number. We're gonna give everything away in 2018 too. So we still got to figure out the whole thing. We kind of had a lead last week.
We did have a
We
lead.
need to follow up on the
haven't-
lead.
I sort of followed up, but
Okay.
not like
Yeah.
I ain't been
So-
hitting that drum hard because I know everybody's doing the holiday thing.
Yep.
but,
Yep. So
we had a lead from old Jerry Jordan about
Yeah,
a
yeah.
local, at least a local race team. and a driver that I actually have solicited to be on the show before because I knew he was driving out of Georgia.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. We'll follow up with the lead and see what goes on. But we got about $1,200 just to throw at somebody. I say we, I mean the PETM posse does, which is so
posse,
cool,
yeah.
so neat to have happen. I've said it before. I was like expecting $300 or something, and we would just give somebody a tire.
Right. Here's a tire. How would you like a tire?
But the posse came through, man. It was really cool. So we'll just keep on doing that. Why not? I don't expect more or anything else after. I don't. Everybody jumped on the train quick, and I get that. But shoot, if you want to keep doing it, if you want to keep being a part of it, or if you want to sign up now, we're doing it again 2018. It's going to be fun. So with that, phew, that's a lot going on. Let's see. What should we do next? I guess we should talk about the driver number. It's just car number 26.
That feels like the next thing.
Yeah, it feels like the next thing. It is the next thing on the list here.
You can tell this is completely scripted, by the way.
Right, exactly. Frank, any notable 26s from your perspective?
From my fandom, I really don't think there's any specific driver that stood out. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that ran that number. I know. I think when I started watching, it was Steve Kinzer.
Steve Kinzer?
Oh, really? Speaking of dirt open wheel racing.
No kidding.
Yeah. Steve Kinzer in 95 ran it for a while, and then it was, I think, Johnny Benson, Jimmy Spencer.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where it went from there. But yeah, I'm curious about this one because this one, I don't think I could name a 26 that went to victory lane.
Well, there's some.
Well, thankfully, Rusty did some research.
Well, yeah, it's not like I'm not like I know.
One
this
of them's
stuff,
really going to surprise you because
Yeah.
he was quite good.
Brett Bodine, 147 races. He's got the most races in the 26. He's got one win in that. Jamie Mack in the 26, 144 races with 2 wins. And
Roush Fenway Racing.
I don't know if I would have pulled out of my hat.
Crown Royal Irwin Tools sponsorship when Kurt Busch left Roush. They turned the 97
I was
into the
at
26.
a race he won. I should know that. That's
what's crazy?
Well, he won Daytona.
I wouldn't have pulled out of my hat that
the
he
summer
had
Daytona twice, baby.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the 400. Yeah.
I was at the 400 that he won at Daytona.
Yep. The Rooster. How about that?
The Rooster. I remember that. That was like
Ricky
a
Rudd.
green number white car is what I got in my head. Maybe that's not right. I don't know, but that's what I see.
It's always a good color
vision.
color scheme, like a
It's like the
white
Kodiak
hood
car
or something.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. 58 races, 2 wins.
Buick too.
Daryl Derringer, who we've talked about on the show, 34 races, 1 win. Bobby Isaac, 22 races, 1 win. Fred Lorenzen, who we've talked about on the show, 4 races, 1 win. And here's the one, Junior Johnson. Y'all listen, 40 races, 12 wins in the 26, just because he's Junior Johnson. How about that?
Yeah, that's 3 of 10. That's a 30% win rate.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I can't imagine what that. I hope that was all like in one season, because 40 races, that's approximately maybe a season's worth. And
maybe one of those obscure seasons where they race 3 times during the week and then on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. Our spotlight driver this week, Curtis Turner, 22 races in the 26, 2 wins. And I was looking up some folks. I looked up Daryl Derringer, and I was like, oh, we've already talked about him, evidently, because my link was purple on Google or whatever. Yeah. So Curtis Turner, the first link you're going to find, put Curtis Turner NASCAR into Google, and then go read this article on NASCAR.com. It's called Curtis Turner, Innovator, Playboy, Competitor. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. He's going to be a good one. So he started bootlegging at age 9. I think that's a new record, Sherwin.
Yeah, that's even. I think that's even younger than Raymond Parks. Raymond Parks was reportedly at 14 was when he started running the booze.
Running booze. A millionaire by age 20 and like farming equipment or something, if I remember right. Bill France called him the greatest race car driver I have ever seen, and that was after having unbanning him from NASCAR. He was banned from NASCAR, I think, due to some sort of he was trying to do a union with the drivers or something. Yeah, and he got banned. He was nicknamed Pops due to his frequent bumper use to pop other drivers' rear quarter panel. Pretty much, if he decides he's going to pass you, he's going to pass you. And his accolades are ridiculous. He's the only driver to win 2 races, leading every single lap. That's nuts in any perspective. He won the inaugural 1956 Southern 500 at Rockingham. He conceptualized, funded, and built Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Have you some, Curtis. Inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, 2016, and died at age 46 in a plane crash on a flight that he was piloting in 1970. The hats off, the drinks are up to Mr. Curtis Turner. Me and Sherman were talking. I got a drink now. We were talking beforehand that 2017 marks the year, 1970 would have been 47 years ago, and he died at age 46, so it's been longer since his death than what he lived. And to still have such a strong reputation and strong presence in NASCAR goes to show what kind of legacy he left.
Yeah, I have some fun things to say, but I want to let Frank speak because we've kind of shut him up there for a while.
Yeah, we did a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Sherman.
All right. Well, so what I would say to this is you want to learn more about Curtis Turner, go listen to Dinner with Racers, the podcast with Tony Stewart. They did almost 4 hours with Tony Stewart. They broke it up into 2 pieces, and they talked about Curtis Turner because they talked about the whole A.J. Foyt and, getting hammered and showing up and then listen to the one with Chocolate Myers because I think they hit it on it again. It was kind of like Curtis Turner was a wild child.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't say that as much as I should have at the beginning. He was part of the Playboy part was in capitals. And the driver part was in lowercase,
right.
And he was a amazing driver. So imagine the Playboy part.
Right. There's no. We can say it now with reverence and laugh because we know that it's not okay anymore. But there is no telling how many races he showed up for that he would not have passed a breathalyzer had he been driving a street car.
No kidding. Oh, what a deal. So there you go, Curtis Turner. I'm glad we got to talk about him after seeing all that. Yeah. So silly season time. I think let's just get into it, dude. It's time. Sherman's got a soapbox, I think. Frank's got a soapbox. Frank, why don't you lead us off? So back in August, you wrote a piece called Schedulenomics, and I want everybody to go frontstretch.com and look at.
I tweeted it out earlier.
Oh, good. So go on to Twitter. You can see it there, or frontstretch.com, and search for it. Frank wrote this piece on Schedulenomics. Frank figured it'd be a great time to kind of talk about that in between, or in the off season, in between seasons here, and see where we get. So, Frank, why don't you kick us off?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I tried to do is, whenever people talk about the schedule, it seems like it feels like there's just a crowd around behind them yelling more short tracks and road courses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
guilty, by the way.
yeah, and why not? I mean, that's if you think about the most entertaining races during the season, short tracks and road courses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I wanted to try and give people an idea of just how the schedule comes about, and some of the obstacles that realistically exist when you're trying to get to, move some of these so-called cookie cutter dates
mm-hmm.
to more entertaining tracks. There's some very, very large and wealthy obstacles in the way. And, I think that I just want people to, I'm on that side. I really would love to see more of both, but I want to try and educate people and help fans understand why that's not happening. And it's not just because NASCAR is like, no, sorry, we're not interested in your short tracks or your road courses. And, I think I went to the tire test at the Roval in Charlotte, I think it was in October. And I really think that there should be a little more applause for the folks over there at CMS just trying to do something. They can't change Charlotte Motor Speedway. It is what it is. They're not going to bulldoze it and build something else.
Right.
So they took the facility they have and said, we hear the people clamoring for short tracks and road courses. How can we try and satisfy some of that demand with, given what we have to work with? And that's what they've come up with. Is it ideal? Of course not. Like I mentioned in the article, the road course, the course wasn't built for stock cars, but neither was Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen is a sports car road course.
Isn't that what makes that?
Even Formula
the idea was
One.
to run Formula One.
Yeah.
Sports cars on Watkins Glen, not stock cars. But so I'm curious to see. I'm definitely looking forward to that race next year. But I think they deserve a very big attaboy just for making that effort and trying to respond to what fans are asking for.
And quick aside, Sherwin is drinking out of a what is that? A Sailor
Moon
cup.
Some anime thing that your wife does, right, or whatever.
I mean, you can say that.
It's like a pink cup.
He brought that cup from his house with him. I know that.
Damn it! Why'd you tell him?
No, my wife's. He reached up into the cupboard.
She's cute.
Grabbed.
She's 12, but no, I'm kidding.
Oh no,
sorry.
Jeez,
oh my God. We already got in the ditch. All right, it's early for that.
No, but so Watkins Glen. I mean, I don't think every race needs to be cars driving on a course that they weren't designed for. But I think that's part of what makes that whole thing great. Is let's see what we can do on this course. Let's see what kind of setups we can have, and the cars, two tires coming off the ground and stuff on.
Run the boot.
Yeah, on every other turn, and missing the bus stop and stuff like. You know what I mean, Sherwin?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, where I thought we were going to go with this right off the bat, and where I prepared my rant for is trying to get NASCAR fans to understand that the reason why we aren't going, air quotes, going to more short tracks or going to more road courses is that ISC, who has a controlling interest in half the tracks essentially, and SMI, who has controlling interest in basically the other half of the tracks, like they're publicly traded companies. They have to have earnings per share, and there's not a lot of agility in companies that size. Number one, number two, ISC is CEO'd by Lisa Kennedy. Or Lisa France Kennedy. Did you hear a name in there that you recognize?
Lisa. No. France.
Probably the France part, right? That's Brian France's sister. Like, she's the CEO, and there's an ownership shared across the France family with half the tracks and the sanctioning body of the sport. You think ISC is losing any races? How many short tracks do they own? One.
Oh, yeah.
It's
You said
Martinsville.
ISC. Sorry.
Yeah,
ISC. Yeah,
Martinsville.
Yeah.
How many road courses do they own? One.
Yep.
It's Watkins Glen. So they're not going to steal any races from what they have in their subsidiary. Like, the only thing they were able to do to make significant change in the sport was to go, you know what? We made a bad decision to give Fontana 2 races and take one race away from Darlington. But they didn't make a great decision when they put that race back in their system and gave Kansas a second race. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these big conglomerates, these oligarchies, or oligopolies, I should say, they're not poised to make decisions like, can we please go run a race at Hickory? Or can we please go run Nashville Fairgrounds? Mm-hmm. And on the other side of totally other side of the equation is, there aren't very many of these tracks that people would want to run a race at that are even capable of supporting it, both from a facility standpoint, a safety standpoint, a transportation standpoint. Like, there are so many hundreds of reasons why we're doing what we're doing now. It's like, okay, we got to steer it's Titanic cubed, and we got to try to steer that thing in a different direction. It's going to be very challenging to do that.
So challenging, but we're all engineers here. Can we do something? Is there a way to run a one-off track every year? Maybe that's something I've heard plenty of times.
There is
what if we have
non-sanctioned event, the All-Star race?
Okay,
that's where you have a chance to play.
I love that. Oh, I just got goosebumps. You can't see them over the shirt.
Can we not run, and let's run different disciplines too? And I heard this. I'm kind of regurgitating some of the stuff I heard this week, but it was already something I was interested anyway. So I'm not going to steal the content. I'm going to share the content. I think the All-Star Race is a perfect opportunity to do what the International Race of Champions always wanted to do, was to bring in a whole bunch of different racing talents from different types of racing and have them race the same car. So why don't we do something similar to that with our All-Star Race and change the venue and the discipline every time we do it? Because the reality is this, and I can't remember who said it so eloquently this week. I think it might have been Mojo Nixon on Nate Ryan's podcast, was like, we only show up with 38 to 40 cars every week. We have the best stock car racers in the world already on the track. We don't need an all-star race. We already have one.
That's
every single week.
That's a good way to put it. Frank.
So let's do something weird.
Frank, how about something weird? What's something weird we can do?
Well, first off, moving the All-Star Race from Charlotte would be weird because I don't know how they're going to talk the folks over at SMI into that one. But, and it's the thing is, even though the All-Star Race is not a points event, it doesn't affect, the championship or, official victory tallies. It still generates money for Charlotte Motor Speedway. So, again, same kind of thing. The obstacles in moving it are large, and I would love to see, something different. And there's a million different things you can do, as far as different tracks or even, with the cars. Maybe they all should run a truck series race somewhere instead of the same, because it's really not much different. It's just a short Coca-Cola 600, especially now that we do segments in regular races. It's the same cars, the same drivers, the same crews, the same crew chiefs, the same owners on the same track. So to fans, what's the draw? What's if I have the option of going to the All-Star Race or the Coke 600, I have to pay to buy a ticket for either one. Well, I'm getting 600 miles for that second one, and the first one is probably going to be in the 200 to 300 mile range. I'm going to go for the 600. So I think they really need to do something to differentiate it from any other event, whether it's running a track that we don't usually go to, running cars that maybe the drivers don't run every week. I came up with a thing last year, kind of half jokingly, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. I would love to see, forget the whole, leave the full-size cup cars in the garage, give them all a independently prepared bandoleros, and have them run the little circle on the front stretch in the the pavement that goes through the tri-oval grass.
Yeah, well, in the interest of being a little bit more fun, a little bit more hung out, like we like to see cars, I'd say Legends, but I'm still with you. I think that's a little bit closer to the mark.
It's still same idea.
Mm-hmm. And I guess what I'd like to see is, so maybe if we still incorporate the full size cup cars and do whatever it is we do with them for whatever that segment is of the All-Star Race, but maybe we do heat racing to get them lined up on the little Legends bull ring. Something like that.
I'm reminded of, you remember the show, Whose Line Is It Anyway, right?
Yeah.
They say,
Wayne Brady
the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Right. Yeah, this is what I'm thinking.
Everything's made up.
Everything's made up. Let's make up something crazy. The points don't matter. Right. And let's do something fun. And I think I agree, Sherwin, that now that I say I agree as if I thought about it before, but you've opened up the light here where absolutely let's play with that All-Star Race. Let's do something crazy. And SMI, Well, they're not part of ISC, so they don't have that France name in them. So maybe they can do something.
Well, I think
Too bad, so sad.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Tell them, hey, tough pickles. We're going to do this.
I think Frank hit on a great point, and what we were talking about earlier, the point that I think all of us have been trying to make is that that whole money thing is such a serious piece of the puzzle that, Charlotte Motor Speedway budgets for 2018 based on having 3 different types of races, 3 different race weekends in that respect, because they have All-Star Race Weekend, they have the Coke 600, and they have the Bank of America 500, and that is a different amount of revenue than, say, our racetrack, Atlanta Motor Speedway, that has 1 triple header weekend.
Yep.
And then they have to figure out the rest from there, which is got to be a different budget than having 2.5 cup races.
Well, sure. Well, and they've also got the dirt track right there. They've got
right, that's a big World of Outlaw race.
Yeah. They do drag stuff there, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
they have the
twice a
4
year
wide
they do the
nationals.
drag strip
Yeah,
there.
sorry.
They got that ridiculousness.
I was thinking of a different track there, but yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
They have a completely different revenue program than a lot of other tracks because there's so much stuff there.
There's a good point that in this situation it is a zero-sum game, at least the way we're seeing it, that somebody has to eat it for somebody to regurgitate it? I don't know. What's the opposite of eating? Whatever it is. Somebody's
field goes unplanted in order for someone else's field to be planted.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, right? It's tit for tat. There's no and. It's or. It's always or.
Mm-hmm. So, but let's swallow that pill and let's do something and see what happens. So, yeah, I'm in. But for Schedulenomics, so Frank, scheduling wise, I mean we've talked a lot about getting new tracks or more short tracks or more of the road courses. Which, by the way, I think the Xfinity series. I was about to say nationwide again, and it's been a long time.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, that's like having a cigarette after 8 months off. Nationwide series. Oh crap! I did it again.
Oh man.
But how about moving races around? What's the logistics there? Me and Sherwin are always sort of hot-headed about Atlanta having what we keep calling the winter race.
It sure as hell is not the spring.
No, it's not a spring
is
race.
March 21st, okay? February 25th is not March 21st.
By a long shot.
By a bunch.
We've had Ed Clark, the president of Atlanta Motor Speedway, on the show, and he, will tell you he agrees with our assessment. He's just, in a certain way, and he wants to promote that, and I totally respect that from his perspective, and he's working on doing what he can for that. But Frank, what about moving stuff around? What about moving? You know what? This is a great segue into a Ask BETM question. So let's cover this question while we're doing it too. Chris Harmon at NYGNSTFN, New York Giants fan, I'm
reckon.
Guessing? Yeah,
that's
okay.
what I figured.
Does Frank like the Cup Championship race being at Homestead every year? So let's talk about moving races around. And
I eliminated the parenthesis. He said he does.
Okay,
just for reference.
Cool. So let's talk about that too.
So
Frank,
let's beat him down. No,
yeah. So Frank, how about that?
Well, I think there's a few races that I think need to be moved. Atlanta is one of them. The spring race at Bristol is another.
Ooh.
Because I swear it rains every single April.
Good point. We had a waterfall where there once was none at the spring race right behind us, and
we were underwater.
We
had accidental water beds at our campsite. So
I think I remember seeing something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that said, I do have a brand new like 16 by 32 tarp from the Bristol Walmart that we
One
purchased.
of them is in my trunk or in my car.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Keep going. We digress.
Yeah. Well, when you say rain at Bristol, we identify with that, I guess.
Yeah, no, we don't have nothing to say about rain at Bristol.
Understandable. But yeah, I think Bristol needs to be a little bit later. Maybe we could go there the week before the All-Star race. Atlanta needs to be later. I don't understand why they don't just go Daytona and then do the West Coast swing. Vegas, Phoenix, Auto Club.
Right.
And by the time we come back east, weather in most of the markets is improving. And, I think, it could stand to help, because I know of at least a couple people that are kind of on the fence about Bristol this year just because of the adverse weather that they've been having. And I think if you reschedule it in time of the year where maybe, it's a little more predictable, I guess, as much as weather could be, it might eliminate some of that hesitation that I'm sure, more than a few fans might have about going to that race. As far as the finale, I actually really think that Homestead is a good venue. I think it's racy. There's they put on a pretty good show. The atmosphere, being in South Florida, I think it definitely has more of a excitement or a wow factor than maybe someplace, a little more cookie cutter, so to speak. And then, that late in the year, you're also kind of limited again. Weather starts to come into play, and there's certain tracks that are just not going to be an option. We're never going to run the finale at Watkins Glen. Probably never going to, finish up the year at Indianapolis. There's just certain areas that
Atlanta's nice during that time of year. Mid-November.
We used to finish at Atlanta.
Yeah, I know it. I mean,
for like 30 years.
Yeah, for a long time. I totally agree on the finale race. Needs to be a racer's racetrack. It doesn't need to be a road course. I don't think it needs to be like a super speedway with restrictor plates. It needs to be somewhere where you can race, and I think Homestead is a very good choice for that. Does it need to be the choice every year? Well, shoot, we've got Homestead, other places that we can race at, which you were just kind of working on there. I mean, you could race at Phoenix. You could race at Fontana. You could race in Atlanta, we just said. You could race in Vegas. Vegas finale would be, I just got goosebumps again thinking about what a Vegas finale would be, and the fact that they do the banquet in Vegas and all that. I know there's been talk of that before, but
I'm good with a Vegas finale as long as that's the only race Vegas has.
Yeah.
And I have to support my rant on Twitter today, but I want to shoot some holes in your Bristol deal, Frank, for just a minute, because they were in March forever. Right, so it was Bristol and Atlanta that were up for grabs on that April race. If everybody is upset and worried about the weather in Bristol in April, why in the hell didn't they give that date to Atlanta?
Oh, that's a good question. Boy, April in Atlanta, because May is too late in terms of – not too late. May is perfect, but you can get hot in May in Atlanta. April is the best weather we have in
April,
Atlanta.
you have a chance at high of 65, low of 45. Best camping weather there is.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Here, let's paint with a wide brush.
Yeah, wide as you can get.
Why do we – boy, I'm going to get some hate. Why do we have to start with the Daytona 500?
We used to not. Asking for it. We used to not.
How long ago? I mean, that's been a while.
70s.
Okay.
82, I believe, was 82. The first year.
All right.
It was the season opener.
Well, I ain't afraid of it. Y'all can look me up or whatever. I was born in 82. So in
I
my
was
lifetime.
Born before that.
Right. In my lifetime, we either did one or haven't
Riverside.
had one.
It was Riverside forever.
So what if we change that around? What if here's my problem though, is if Daytona 500 is not the first race, it almost has to be the last race, and I'd rather it be the first race, to be honest. You know?
Oh, I think we do have to do that.
Like, if you're going to do the Super Bowl, you can't do it. You can't do it in July.
So what I don't understand is why have the Daytona 500 and then take a week off? I guess we're not doing that this year, but we did it last year. And
True.
To your point on the whole, or to Frank's point, excuse me, and I think you and I have sung these praises before. Why in the hell aren't we taking the West Coast swing to start off the gate? You know what somebody told me? Somebody inside the business told me the reason why we go to Atlanta after Daytona, because that's the way the schedule was written, is to get a good TV number right after the Daytona 500 to continue the positive swell for NASCAR. And I'm like, that makes no sense, because anybody that wants to watch the sport ain't watching for Atlanta. They're watching because it's NASCAR.
Hmm.
And if it was at Phoenix, it would be getting just as much attention, and the average Farmer's Almanac temperature would be 19 degrees warmer.
No kidding.
And it don't rain in Phoenix ever.
And that puts it closer. By the way, that puts it closer. I don't know how much these Venn diagrams overlap, but to the Phoenix Open for golf.
Well,
which is,
that would see, and that's what NASCAR needs to do, because all these guys are playing golf now. The best thing you could possibly do is work up a weekend where we're at Phoenix one weekend, and the Phoenix Open is the next weekend. Don't overlap. Don't be right on top of each other, but give somebody an opportunity at a 10-day vacation. That means they get to go to the coolest golf event that's not the Masters, and a really awesome triple header NASCAR weekend.
And the type of fan that wants to go to both of those is the same, by the way.
If you want to go to the 16th hole and drink beer and chunk beers when somebody gets a hole in one,
and heckle,
you want to go to a NASCAR
like, you
race
get to heckle golf at Tiger Woods.
It's expected
teeing
that
up
you
or
heckle.
whatever. You get to heckle. That's the best part. So shoot. We've talked about it before about doing that.
Password.
yeah, and they're like 2 weeks apart or whatever right now. But boy, if they could close that up,
I close that
make
gap.
something
Yeah.
happen.
So right now the Waste Management Open is like the last weekend in February, I think, and Phoenix is like the second or third weekend in March. It's like, why don't we just sort of squeeze?
Yeah. So moving on from there. Let's talk about let's give some props over to Matt Weaver. His article in the Open Red podcast with Kyle Larson that they did recently. I think the Open Red podcast is the official podcast of Help Me Out Sherwin.
I think it's open wheel sprint and or midget racing. I think Mick Rose has tried to turn me onto that podcast before. It's about the small chassis, big time motors, open wheel stuff that Larson, Kane, Newman, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Tim Richmond, all those guys came from.
There's some good names there. But he's talking about they had Kyle Larson on. And very interestingly, Kyle Larson in his interview there, and probably blowing it out of proportion, but hey, it's the off season, we got to talk about something.
Well, it's a podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, why not? Kyle Larson saying saying that NASCAR is a step in his goal to be a full-time outlaw racer.
Yeah, but I think so. One of the things, and I thanked Weaver for him creating this thread. But one of the things when I went back and read everything that was in it, it was like, okay, he means when he's done with cup racing.
I think you put it the best in the pre-show. In his Matt
he wants
Kenseth
to run a
his,
full schedule, which is like 67 races or something. So Frank, fire away.
I kind of had the same reaction I think most people had when they read that is, what? But, like you said, you read into it a little more and you kind of see what exactly he's talking about. And it's no different than what Tony Stewart did. Tony Stewart felt like, okay, I came out here, into NASCAR, I ran the Cup Series for so many years, got most of everything that I was looking for out of it. And now it's not really that fun. So there's something else that I want to go do that I consider fun. Well, that's what I'm going to go do. And I I definitely 100% see Larson doing that at some point. I honestly think that he would probably do it at a younger age than Tony Stewart, especially if he were to achieve some high level success in the Cup Series relatively early. Like if 5 years from now, he's already got a championship and a Daytona 500 win, I'll bet you he's already starting to think about it. I don't think he would jump quite that early, but once Cup isn't fun anymore, these guys are going to start going back to what they enjoy. And we've seen it with Tony. He doesn't want to stop racing. He just wanted to stop racing in the Cup Series because between the travel, the grind of traveling and sponsor obligations and talking with us, he just wasn't enjoying himself. So I mean, I could definitely see Kyle Larson doing something similar to that, and probably at a younger age than Tony Stewart.
Oh, go ahead, Sherman. We both breathed in at the same time and looked at each other.
Like we breathed in, like we're about to go on a. So I think one of the things that we have to make sure we pay attention to that was part of Weaver's point was that one of the reasons why Larson might consider going back to World Outlaws before his career's over, or as a driver or as a competitive driver, is that driving a Cup car seems today, it appears, it has the appearance that the car itself matters more than the driver, which was always the caveat. Like the explosion of NASCAR when Days of Thunder hit Hollywood, and it's like, and Cole's saying, stock car is stock car, they're pretty much built the same, and Harry Hogg's saying, well, there's nothing stock about a stock car, and he's like, well, they're supposed to be built to run equal, right? And he says, yeah, that's what the rule book says.
Yeah.
And so Cole's like,
back in Curtis Turner's time, who we talked about earlier.
And that's exactly. And it's like, so I don't have to be worried about getting beat by another car. I had to worry about getting beat by another driver. Is basically how that went. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I totally agree with the assessment that I'm not sure how much the driver matters today. We have so many really good drivers in the top 20 of Cup that it might be the day that you rub the right spot on the car. That might be the day your guy wins because those guys can all flip and drive. But on dirt, where everything changes every time you go out, like every time you have a restart, the track changes. It's like dirt is like Dover every time you go there. Like every dirt track is like Dover in that every time you have a restart, track's completely different. Like, I don't know what's going on.
And you have to change and adapt.
You have to go high, and then you have to go low, and you have to go in the middle. And like, I think that's what Larson's getting at. And Tony talked about that. Like I said, I'll plug it again. Dinners with Racers. It's a great podcast. Ryan Eversley, who races sports cars, it's his deal. But it's a sticking point. Cup is such a different thing today than maybe that it was 25 years ago, 30, 40 years ago.
I was going to say that using NASCAR and being on the high level of NASCAR that somebody like Kyle Larson is, I don't think he's going to find difficulty in using that as a stepping stone to a full-time outlaw career. I think he is well set up to do so. All racing is really money, right? If you've got the money, you get to race. I think he will be just fine there and competitive. So,
yeah, well, I think in terms of earning power, I think ultimately at the end of the day, the conversation, there was two underlying themes. It was, I'm not sure how much driver input a Cup driver has in a Cup car capable of winning compared to your peers. And the other side is, I'm going to make bunch of money racing a cup car that would clearly fund me leisure racing in World of Outlaws.
Yeah.
And I want to run the 67 race season because I want to see if I can do it.
Yeah. Why not?
Because and the whole like the nebulous cloud is no NASCAR Cup champion has also won the World of Outlaws championship.
Let's move on to Ask PETM. We got a bunch of questions in. Thank y'all on the Christmas season, off season, for sending stuff in. We've already talked about Chris Harmon's question. Thank you for sending that in. Andrew Kantian at KHANTZIAN asks, interesting question. What is your favorite NASCAR broadcasting call? And I'm not sure exactly where he's going for on that, but we'll each do our own little interpretation here. So, Frank, what's your favorite NASCAR broadcasting call?
Oh man, that's tough. I think the Mike Joy during the 1998 Daytona 500, as Earnhardt was coming to the line, the 20 years of frustration, 20 years of trying. That one, I still get goosebumps when I watch that race. I mean, that has to be up there. And probably the most quoted one that I hear is, "Have you ever?" "No, I've never." I mean, and the funny thing is, like, he said it so quick, he didn't even think about it. And it's just like, that is so simple, but it just it just sticks with you. And I mean, it's literally, I mean, that's been what, 14 years, I think now.
Yeah,
and
that was Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven at Darlington for those listening at home.
Yeah,
and it's still quoted almost, at least a couple times a year.
Oh, and it's misappropriated.
I mean, that kind of staying power is impressive.
Yeah, it's misappropriated or voiceover, however you want to look at it, over a ton of different things. But that was Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven slamming at each other for 4 laps, finishing up at Darlington, one of the best races in the last 20 years, probably.
Mm-hmm. Sherwin?
Yeah, I was a quick story about that race. I was actually on vacation with a couple of my friends down in Miami, and we were staying with his roommate's sister. And it was during the closing laps of that race, and she would not shut up she just kept, I don't want to watch this. Blah, 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 blah. And I remember they all got so mad at me because I turned around and I took one of the couch cushions and I threw it at her. I said, "You can wait 4 bleeping laps." And, it was awfully quiet in there for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably the only better laps to close a race. What I would say the 10 laps that Jimmy and Jeff ran against each other at Atlanta back in, what was that, 2012, 2013, when it rained and they ran on a Monday afternoon. And then same 2 guys, Jimmy and Jeff, at Martinsville in 2008 in the first year of the Car of Tomorrow. So, so I think for me, I guess I had to approach this a bunch of different ways because I got to see the question before anybody, right?
Yeah.
Had to get a chance to think about it. So I think if I just look historically, I like the 2 that you brought up, Frank, for sure. The one I want to introduce into the equation, and this is historical. I didn't get to see it live, but it's available for everybody to watch, including the entire race on YouTube, because YouTube is an awesome place. Is Dale Jarrett getting to call the Dale and Dale show when his son beat Dale Earnhardt to win Daytona 500 in 1993.
Yeah. So walk us through that. Emotional.
Yeah, bring her home, Dale. So here's the cool thing about it is, and the guys that worked with Ned Jarrett in the booth said they knew what was happening. Here comes my goosebumps, just full body. The guys in the booth knew what was going on. They're like, there's 3 or 4 laps to go, and it's like the 2 cars that really have a chance to win this thing are that black number 3 and that neon green, number 18 car, and it's Ned Jarrett's son who's driving one of those cars, and they're both named Dale. So there's all this NASCAR significance there, right? Whether it's cliche or not doesn't matter. And so the two guys that were in the booth with him, and it was Benny Parsons one of the other guys. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they just kind of stepped back and just put their mics away and just let Ned be a dad on the microphone. And I thought that was one of the cool things about NASCAR that like kind of reminds you, yeah, this is a familial kind of thing. Like we're all about family.
I'm going to play off that whole family thing here. And I'm going to I hope I don't bring this down too much into like a negative, not a negative, but like a sad place or whatever. Of course, there's I mean, you got to talk about the 79 Daytona 500 with the fights and all that. How that really put NASCAR on TV in a lot of ways.
Yeah, 79. Yeah.
But for me, if you go back and listen to Darrell Waltrip through the very end of the 01 Daytona 500, I know that's why I was like, I
wanted to bring this up. I was hoping you would.
That is my. It's hard to say favorite call. You can't call that favorite. That's being an a-hole. You can't do that. But the emotion there on both sides of the equation.
Well,
him crying about his brother winning that race.
Daytona 500.
And it's the Daytona
After like
500.
460 starts without a win.
Just unbelievable. And he's crying and so happy. And the ominous tone that he says at the very end, if you go watch that, and he says, well, I hope Dale's okay. Like,
surely
between
he's okay.
tears of joy.
I guess he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
And
surely Dale's okay. And
knowing what we know now.
Oh my gosh. Just so emotional. So to say favorite, I would certainly say most memorable call to me is the juxtaposition or the dichotomy, to use two $5 words in one sentence, of that joy and fear, terror, whatever we're calling it.
Well, so I didn't pick that moment because I know I have over-selected the first race that I ever watched.
Yeah.
For all of the drama involved and how much it made me want to love this sport and want to get involved in this sport, ultimately to get where we're at today. So I deliberately did not choose that moment. I'm so glad that you did because I'm all in on that. I think that is one of the, like, hearing. So that was Darrell Waltrip's first race in the booth.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
To debut there. Like, so it's like you had all of these crazy things happening. So you had Darrell Waltrip's first time in the booth. You had Michael Waltrip wins his first race, and it's the goddamn Daytona 500. And we lose, like, the most American badass racer that we were aware of at the time. You could go argue for days that guys gone by were just as big of macho dudes. But Dale Earnhardt was as big as it got in that era. Yep. And so all those things happen at the same time. And that's like, how do you not – so if you're me – not to focus on me, but if you're like, how do you not go, okay, this is like an awakening. I found something new that I want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick asks, would you like your favorite driver to be the aggressive risk taker that sometimes gives up a good finish, or the less aggressive big picture good points day kind of driver? Frank, where do you stand on that? Points day guy versus the risk taker guy?
Oh, man. Well, of course I want both.
Right, exactly.
But if I have to choose a side, and I actually, I guess I did choose a side when I started watching NASCAR.
Yeah.
My first race that I ever watched was the 1995 season finale at Atlanta. And I remember watching it with my grandpa and his brother-in-law, and I said, they were telling me, explaining to me everything that was going on, and I said, well,
it was Jeff's first win.
Well, how do you pick a favorite driver? And they said, well, however you want. And I said, well, I want somebody who's good. How about whoever wins this race?
And I know who won that race.
Dale Earnhardt won the race.
Yeah, he did.
Yep. And the next race I watched was at Rockingham the following February, and he booted Bobby Hamilton from the bottom lane all the way up to the wall. And I was like, I like this guy. He's just out there shoving everybody around. So, and the more I learned about it, the more, I discovered his reputation and some of his history. And I knew that I had found the right guy to cheer for. So I would definitely have to go on the aggressive side of that equation.
That's funny because having been the fan of me and Sherwin both fans of Casey Kane, of course, his of course you love the aggressive stuff. It's the of course, but maybe. But he not growing up, but as a NASCAR fan since whatever 06 when he entered it, but we were fans before then. There's something about every time he was top 5, every time that we get a solid race, and so I'm one of those few that I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring just at least. I'm not saying this is my answer, but I'm saying just to give some props to the points guys. That every time there was a top 5, every time there's a top 3, we're excited, we're having fun, we're looking at the points, we're seeing where we're standing, so that we can go into the. I guess I've been a fan of NASCAR since they've had the chase or the playoffs or whatever longer than they haven't. So at this point, it's get us to that point, to where we can be in the dance, and then once we're in the dance, go crazy. But I've really. I don't know. Maybe it's like getting older and going from drinking Natty Light to drinking, some finer things. So you enjoy the finer sides of things, and you see people strategy-wise doing what they're doing. Hey, we're not a winning car today, but we took a top 15 machine and made it into a top 8 machine. That is really cool to me, and so I'm going to at least give perspective to that one. In the end, I want my guy to win, so I probably want him to be aggressive. But I at least want to give some props to that side of it, Sherwin.
So I took this question very differently than that.
Okay.
What I took it as is, do you want a guy to take a so to use what you just said and play off of that? Do you want a guy with a 15th place car to try to finish 8th and potentially finish 37th, or do you want a guy to take a 15th place car and try to finish 15th with it? So, as a Casey Kane fan for the last 13 years, what I see out of that racer is somebody who is trying to take a 15th place car and finish 7th with it, and a lot of times finishes 27th or 28th.
True.
Hanging out on the edge, like what Kyle Larson did for his first 2 years. I'm fast. This car is not fast. I'm going to take a couple risks and see what happens. Tears his car up. Could have finished 15th. Ended up finishing 25th or 35th. So I'm not sure what I actually want from a driver.
That's where I was. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know how to answer this question because I've watched the guy that tried to get more from the car than was there. Casey never rode around. If that car was 22nd, it's because that car was absolutely flipping junk.
Yep.
And a lot of times he'd make that car finish 27th because he hit the wall with it.
Yep.
Trying to get it to finish 15th. And so I really don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell you, you know what I want out of a driver? I want a driver to get wrecked at Martinsville, get out, look at the crowd, and go, that guy sucks, and them cheer for him because that's my guy.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
And then dump his ass at Phoenix.
So last question. William Soquette. At _Wilsum 429, and by the way, I know that if you're a car fan, if you're a NASCAR fan / whatever, that 429 means something. So thank you. At _Wilsum 429, will the Roush drivers foray into sports cars help or hurt the NASCAR program? Frank?
Well, I mean, I don't see any downside to it. You can never have too much knowledge or experience, even if it doesn't really apply. I don't really see it going either direction. There's not a huge upside to it, but at the same time, I don't see any detriment from them being involved. It would be nice if there was something that maybe you could translate a little more directly to help their program, but I really don't see any major upside or downside to it either way, to be honest with you.
I'm with you on that. For me, it's or I should say, there's no negative, and I don't think there's necessarily a zero here. It's a positive. It's, hey, more racing is better. More experience, like you said, more experience and stuff. There's something you can get out of it, regardless of what it is. I don't see a problem, Sherman.
I don't either. I think, especially if we look at Ricky and Trevor, neither one of them are road racing background guys. So if they're getting some seat time going right and left, I can't imagine that's going to hurt their road course development process. So why not? I mean,
yeah,
it makes sense. Kyle Larson did it. He's not a road racer. Ganassi thought that was the right thing to do for his guys.
Yeah.
He always did with McMurray and Larson. So, yeah, I think it can only help. It cannot hurt.
Yep. I think we all agree on that. So, thank you for the question, William. With that, I think we're way over an hour.
We're right at time for Strange with Stang.
Like I said in the pre-show to Frank, we've got about 20 minutes of content, which means we'll probably be talking
58 minutes of content.
Exactly, which means we're going to BS for that long. And thank you, as always. But thank you, Frank, for sticking in with us and hanging out. So Strange with Stang, Asher J. Stang asked us this week, and Sherwin, I've got a lead-in for you on this question.
Okay.
You have a story that I don't know if right now you have this story, but you have this story.
I'm going to have to recall something.
You're going to have to recall, but you'll recall it immediately. What is a meal or food item, if prepared inaccurately, could possibly infuriate you, ruin your meal, and make you contemplate overhand windmilling into the preparer's face? And wrote in there, I said no effing mayo. So I'm digging it. Frank, what's your litmus test for food being prepared inaccurately or wrong that'll infuriate you?
Really don't know of anything. You know what? There is one thing, and I don't try to frequent. I don't frequent fast food places too often. At least I try not to, anyways. But whenever I order a burger, I always request the same thing. I don't do pickles.
No pickles. Okay.
No pickles. Cucumbers do not belong on my hamburger.
Okay.
And it's to me, it seems like such a simple request. I'm not asking you to put anything extra on the burger. I'm asking you to leave something off.
Right.
So
do
you're
less
allowed
work.
To forget to put pickles on the burger, and they're these little tiny things. So they're always if they're on there and I got to pick them off, they're smothered in ketchup, and I get condiments all over my fingers. Yeah, I would have to say if I ask you to leave pickles off of the burger, do not put pickles on the burger, or I'll be. You guys seen Super Troopers?
Yes.
The
oh my God.
Farva move over the counter.
Yeah.
That'll be me.
Over the counter, you punk, burger punk. Okay.
Yep.
Sherwin,
Leader of cola.
My lead-in for you
All right.
is
You're
one
going
of
to have to remind me.
one of my favorite. No, this is one of my favorite Sherwin stories. Is you were working out in one of those Bumble F places at some plant. Sherwin has to go out to these plants that are in the middle of nowhere because it's cheap to have 100,000 square foot facility there. And so you ended up at a local chain restaurant and ordered a steak. Do you remember? Hey, he remembers a steak. This is the steak.
Oh yeah,
and this
is Corinth, Mississippi.
Corinth, and I laughed so hard and maybe it worked better over text as he's live texting me this steak. But Shoren, tell us about that steak.
So I am in a Ruby Tuesday.
Ruby Tuesday, there you go.
In Corinth, Mississippi, which Corinth has apparently bounced back and forth between liquor's okay but not beer, and beer is okay but not liquor, to now being in a place where you can have both in the same place.
All right, so
and
we're growing.
Ruby Tuesday's walking distance from every hotel in town, like
both of them.
Both of them. Both of them with F's. Not both. And so we go over to the Ruby Tuesdays, and I order a steak thinking, well, maybe this is like Applebee's.
Yeah.
It's not. My steak come out. It was the temperature of the sun in every place in it. And it had been microwaved. Like, I ordered a medium rare sirloin steak, and they had microwaved it.
Like, it was medium rare in terms of color.
Like, barely.
Barely.
And by the time I finished, it was not anymore. That's how hot it was. It's continued to cook throughout the entire eating process, which means they didn't let it rest like we all know steaks are supposed to do.
So Sherwin texts me and goes, I just burnt my mouth on the middle of a steak. I lost it. That doesn't make sense, Sherwin.
Here?
You're going to have to give me some more information. He's like, it's medium rare. No, that's not more information. That's worse. What the hell happened?
That's what I ordered. I was in Corinth, Mississippi for 9 straight days. We drank them out of Wild Turkey. Or I did.
I don't know about the other fellows. I answer that question for Sherwin in a way because I love that story. But for me, I got to say it's barbecue. Like if I go to a place and there's some places around here, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to poop on people or their tastes or whatever. But I've had people, you got to go to this barbecue joint, you got to go to this place, and I've gone and I'm like, this barbecue sucks, man. And I don't want to tell them that, And we're here in the South, and we've talked about it before. Atlanta isn't known for a specific type of barbecue, but we got a lot of barbecue restaurants around that are good.
Sure.
And I talked about it on last week's show, doing barbecue on the smoker. And when you get to do barbecue on your own smoker, you do barbecue the way you like it, and you hone in on something. It's not like I started off as some barbecue expert or something, but I honed in on a recipe and a style and a procedure of cooking that I really like. And so when I'm out getting barbecue, I want something that kind of resembles that. But you go to some of these places and you're like, man, this barbecue sucks. You have terrible taste in barbecue, brother. But you don't want to tell that person. So it's hard for me, but in a lot of ways, for me, it's barbecue. If you don't do barbecue right, or even the style that you're trying to do, maybe that's it. If you're trying to do a Memphis barbecue and you suck at it, that's going to piss me right off.
Well, I would fall right in line with you in that respect. There's a lot of friends, they'll tell you, oh, you got to go to this barbecue, you got to go to that barbecue, you got to do this barbecue, and a lot of them are ultimately they're from the north. And it's not that they don't know how to smoke things up there.
Right.
It's just that that's where they're from, and they don't really, a lot of them don't mess around. Some of them do even from Big Egg or Green Egg people are like, oh, well, this place got pretty good barbecue, and I'm like, all right, let me tell you something. After the third time the same person tells me I got to go try a barbecue, I'll be like, look, here's the deal.
Yeah.
I know how to do barbecue. I don't.
Yep.
If I want barbecue, I don't go buy it.
Right.
I just make it.
I'll make some barbecue,
and then I make Brunswick stew, and then I give 4 pounds to my parents. Like I do it all.
Y'all. Everybody likes their own barbecue, or a different way, and you hone in on it. I don't care who you are. Sherwin's Brunswick stew. I will never make Brunswick stew in my life. I'll make barbecue. It's not that I don't like his. It's the whole point, like I just said, you develop your own style and the thing that you really like. But Sherwin's Brunswick stew, there is no other Brunswick stew. That is how you make Brunswick stew, and I'll eat that same one for the rest of my life and never make it. So if you're at a tailgate with us, and we got to do Brunswick
it's in
stew.
the fall.
one day.
Yeah, we'll have stew.
We'll have to do stew because that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that, let's close this thing out. We've been talking for like an hour and 15 on 20 minutes of content. Frank, why don't you close us out? Tell us what you're up to. Tell the folks where they can find you. What's going on in the off season?
Well, not a whole lot. I'm actually going tomorrow and meeting the PETM resident driver expert, Tommy Joe Martins.
Oh, man.
At the shop up in Mooresville.
Jealousy has its name, and its name is Rusty.
I see Kevin Eagles on here, and he kind of just leaked my scoop already. Kevin, I'm going to get you. But
well, make sure you tell Tommy we said hey, and he's overdue.
That's true.
I will.
True.
I will send him your way. Maybe you guys can get him on next week. But yeah, so I'm heading up there tomorrow afternoon and going to meet with him and talk to him about some things that have taken place with their organization. And other than that, I've just been kind of taking it easy, trying to enjoy the holidays, and like I said, looking forward to the fam coming home tomorrow. And if if you guys want to see what I'm up to, you can find me on the old tweet box.
Yes, sir.
And it's usually where I put all my goings on and all that sort of thing. But yeah, so I mean it's just trying to fill the space until February, and then we all get back on the treadmill again.
On the treadmills for sure. Sherwin, let's start closing this thing out. Y'all know where to find us. It's PTM Podcast at PTM Podcast, PTMPodcast.com. Instagram is PTM Podcast. Y'all know where to find us. Just look it up and you'll see us. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
Yeah, and on the Facebook, it's facebook.com/PETM Podcast.
Look out.
I am Andrew Sherwin at Pregame Engineer. On Instagram, I am Andrew L. Sherwin.
Well, there you go. And we'll do this again next week. Let's have some fun. Woo woo! All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Thank you for joining, as always. PTM Podcast is out. Out. There it is, y'all.
Boom, it's in the can.
In the can. Hour and 15. That's like one of our longer ones. Of course, it has to be. I got to blow my nose real bad. This
All
is
right.
like
hey,
mess.
Frank, thanks,
So,
man.
We
Hey, no problem.
We
Thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate it. We're still YouTubing, so don't say anything you don't want your superiors to see.
No.
But really appreciate you hanging on, man. Thanks for all your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff. Really excited about all the things that are going on in the new year for sure. So that was some really neat news at the end of your deal there, that you're going to go see Kevin Eagle and Tommy Joe. We're big supporters, obviously. I'm sure you're aware of that because you're paying attention.
Yep. Well, I don't know. Did you see Kevin's post in the YouTube chat?
Yeah. I was trying to talk a little shit to him. Tell Tommy we were hunting for him. He's like, yeah, he's on the road.
Yeah, he's headed this way.
That's cool.
I don't even know where he's coming from. I thought he was. I don't know if he was in Mississippi or if he's. Last I saw him, he was at the Racers Expo thing up there in Indy. I don't know if he went back to Vegas or down there in Como. I'm not sure where he's coming from, but
no worries. Yeah, I didn't really see either. Honestly, I hadn't been paying attention that much.
Did you miss me?
We didn't miss you at all, asshole.
Oh, damn. Oh, that'll happen. You know what? Let's set the YouTube thing off. Thank y'all for joining. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, happy flipping New Year.
Yeah. So thank y'all for joining. Join us in 2018. It's going to be another one of these.
Pink cup again. You never know.
When did we started this thing in 2015, right?
Yeah, it was just before the Coke 600 in 2015.
Yeah. So now it'll be 2018, like into the third calendar year of doing that. 15, 16, 17. I guess fourth, kind of. 15, 16, 17,
Episode
like
127.
Yeah. So awesome. Good deal. Thank y'all for joining. We'll talk to y'all next time. And, y'all know where to go see Frank and stuff. Anyway.
He's coming from Como, Indiana. Good call, Frank.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. And